The courtroom wasn't quite as full as usual. No jury in this trial. The judge would determine the outcome. The defendant had also chosen to defend himself, so confident of his persuasive powers that he felt he could convince the judge of his innocence.
Mr. Young, you're charged with quite a litany of offenses here. Are you certain you want to defend yourself?
Yes, sir, Your Honor. I believe these charges are a travesty of justice, and I am confident that I can explain away all of these accusations.
Very well. Mrs. Prosecutor, please call your first witness.
Your Honor, I call the defendant, Mr. Young, to the stand.
Now we'll get all of this straightened out.
Mr. Young, this is quite a list of offenses. Just to recap for the judge, you've been charged with swindling people out of their money, lying to investigators, and using this money to live a lavish lifestyle. You've shown utter contempt, even hatred, towards the people you've stolen from, contempt for those who tried to find out the truth, and a singular focus on indulging in your own pleasure and personal satisfaction. Yet in light of all this, you still plead innocent? How do you explain this?
All I've ever tried to do is make a living like anyone else. You certainly wouldn't deny someone the right to make a living now, would you?
Certainly not, Mr. Young, but your indulgence goes far beyond what you need to survive.
I'm simply trying to live the lifestyle that everybody else is. I want a nice house. I need a nice car to drive. I like wearing nice clothes. I've worked hard and certainly deserve these things. Besides, these things are no more than everyone else wants for themselves. I see others enjoying these things, and I know that I work just as hard as they do, if not harder. There's no reason why I can't have the same things that everyone else has.
But your desire for these things has driven you to behave terribly. Are these things so important to you that you would sacrifice your character to have them?
You bet. These things are important to me. Do you expect me to live in a box and wear second-hand clothes? Why can't I have these things? This is how people know I'm successful, that I've accomplished things in my life.
But you lied in order to get these things. Your lies made others suffer just so you could have all these things. Are they so important to you that you would lie to get them?
Hey, that's the way the game's played. Buyer beware, right? There are people who lie, a lot more than I ever have, and about bigger things too. Besides, I didn't completely lie. They were more like white lies, if that.
But what about when investigators questioned you about these things? You didn't tell them the truth either.
These guys are harassing me about what I'm doing? I'm just trying to get by in this world. There are murderers and all sorts of other people they should be tracking down. I'm the least of their worries. Why is anyone bothering me about what I'm doing?
Yes, there certainly are plenty of murderers and bad people out there, but what about the people you've affected? What about the damage you've caused?
Hey, people need to watch out for themselves. If they're not smart enough to know what they're doing with their money, then that's their fault. It's not my fault that most people are ignorant and uneducated. These people scrape together a few dollars out of their menial jobs and try to turn it into $1 million. Then they're shocked if they wind up losing money. They're lucky there's guys like me around at all. Otherwise, they just spend their money on something stupid at Walmart.
You seem to hold people in utter contempt, Mr. Young.
The fact is, most people are stupid. I know the type. My parents were the same way. They spent their whole lives working menial jobs. They never went to college. They never did any of the things you're supposed to do to make lots of money. I had to grow up in a small apartment. We never had nice things. We never had nice clothes. I grew up feeling like a loser. It's like my parents didn't even care that we didn't have the things that other people had. Do you know how lousy that made me feel?
And how did it make your parents feel?
They didn't even seem to mind at all. Did they not even stop to think about what it was doing to me, about what people said about us? It was almost like they liked living that way, and I hated them for it. As soon as I had the chance to get out of that run-down apartment, I left as fast as I could, and I never looked back. I put that part of my life behind me from that day forward.
Indeed, it doesn't seem that you've looked back at all. Just a life of self-indulgence for you, right, Mr. Young?
Yeah, that's right. I deserve a better life. But it's not like I wasn't chasing after the same things as everybody else. I want a nice place to live. I want hot women. I want to party and live life to the fullest. What on earth is wrong with that? That's what everyone wants.
At any price?
What do you mean? It's like you think I've done some terrible thing. I just want to live life like everyone else. If it feels good, do it, right? I wasn't hurting anyone. I was just trying to get the most out of my life. That's what we're all trying to do.
You mentioned the women. You've had a lot of girlfriends, haven't you, Mr. Young?
Yes, I have, and I'm proud of it.
You do seem very proud of it, Mr. Young. You must have enjoyed yourself having all those women around.
Those women were lucky anyone paid attention to them at all. We were all just looking for a little fun. There's nothing wrong with that.
What about the ones who felt they were just being used? What about them?
Not my problem. We all knew what we were doing. It's not my fault if some people got carried away.
Well, Mr. Young, this is quite a litany. You've put your money and material things above everything else in your life. You've seen the possessions that others have and have insisted on having them yourself. You've lied over and over again. You show complete hatred for other people, especially those you consider less than yourself. You seem to completely despise your parents, whose biggest offense seems to be that they didn't provide more material things for you. And you seem to be a man completely driven by lusts, with no regard for how they affect others. In short, Mr. Young, you seem to be completely engulfed in your sins. Your Honor, I have nothing further to ask this witness.